Danke, Frank. Thank you all for the invitation and also for the opportunity to reflect together on the next steps, not on German foreign policy, but on the European foreign policy, which is also a German foreign policy, I would say. I would take from your words very seriously, saying that I know that the challenge is huge, no surprise, but I think that building on the wisdom and the vision of all of our 28 countries, I think we can be in 5 years' time, which is the end of my mandate, in a better position than we are now in terms of global player and regional player. Frank, you were mentioning 25 years ago, 9 of November of that time, and I was thinking when it came, the white balloons Sunday, I was in Jerusalem, and I was looking at the same pictures and videos from there, and thinking of that time. I was at school, I was at high school, and to me that was representing not the end of history, not the fear of history coming back, but the possibility of a new start for history. My generation has grown up with the idea that after the fall of the Berlin Wall, a completely different way of dealing with the word complexity was possible. And 25 years later, as you rightly say, we are living difficult times, probably the more difficult times we've ever lived in these 25 years. And in particular, as Europeans, we're living in a difficult region. Because if you look at the crisis in the world, there is no other place, no other region on the globe that is at the moment more tensy, more difficult, more conflictual than the one around us, than the European region. Being it east, Ukraine, with tense relations with Russia, being it south, think of Libya, Africa, being it southeast, the Middle East, Syria, Iraq, and not only to our neighbors, but our neighbors' neighbors. All around Europe, we are living difficult and challenging times. And I strongly believe that if the European Union is going to be an effective global player, that might be possible, that will be possible, only if we manage to be an effective and responsible regional player. Unless we manage to take care of our part of the world in an open way, in an inclusive way, in a way that builds on relations with our partners globally, but still this is our part of the world. And we have to realize, I think, that being effective regionally will make us effective also globally as a consequential step. But I would follow your example and not go into the details of single crises that are around us, because as far as I understand, this morning we have one of the unique opportunities to think a little bit more further than today. And if we try to imagine how we would like the European Union foreign policy to be in 25 years' time, then I think we set our challenges and we find maybe our direction. First of all, I would say that sometimes in Europe we have this false dilemma, and that is also true for foreign policy, whether we follow the national interests or the European interests. And on foreign policy in particular, we understand that in most cases, maybe not all, but most cases, our national interests, our particular interests, even within a country, is served much better with a European perspective. It's not always the case, but it's in many cases the case. Sorry for the word. What we sometimes miss is this awareness of the fact that we share a common interest. We obviously share common values, but in foreign policy, if we look around, all of Europe is interested in having peace and stability on the east, and all of Europe is interested in having peace and stability to the south. No competition, no contradiction in that, but rather a cooperation. So I think the first wish we could make for the European foreign policy in 25 years is that we manage to be influential in a region that is in peace and stability and prosperity. Not only with countries around us having good relations with the European Union as such, or with member states of the European Union, but also developing positive relations among themselves. Because I think this is one of the big added values of the European influence or foreign policy in the region. We learned it in the Balkans, and I highly value the initiative that was taken here in Berlin just last week on the Western Balkans. I think you're right, we have to use more national initiatives and include them in a European perspective, offering them to the European perspective and integrating them in a common view. But look at the Balkans. The added value of the European work towards the Balkans is not only that the Balkan countries have a good and better relation with the European Union, but they develop a better regional cooperation. So the added value of the European foreign policy is, and the neighborhood policy in this case, is also to try and, I wouldn't say export a model, but show that having a better regional integration, better bilateral integrations between countries that not necessarily share a common history or common values from the beginning, brings positive, very positive results internally. Second thing that, and by the way, I strongly believe that in the Western Balkans in particular, the European Union, not only 25 years from now, but I would say much sooner than that, can continue to play a major role, because that is the region where only the European Union can really make a difference. So there we have a special responsibility to exercise, and I think we will do it in the next 5 years, not 25. Second point that is of a common interest is, I think, developing a more effective, a more real system of partnerships worldwide. Now, one of the files I found on my desk starting 8 days ago, is the factual list of our strategic partnerships. And if you look at them, some of them are real. Some of them might be strategic and not partnerships anymore. Some of them are partnership, not strategic. Still, it's all countries with whom we will need to develop a real working relationship, let's put it this way. Because again, if European Union wants to play a political global role, we cannot just pretend that we do not relate to countries that might be difficult to relate to, might be very difficult, very challenging to relate to. But that's our size, that's our level of ambition, to work together, being it confrontational or cooperational, with the big global players, being it Russia, being it Brazil, being it South Africa or Russia. And I think that it's our common European interest in foreign policy to come to, hopefully before 25 years, but 25 years is a symbolic, unavoidable comparison in these days here in Berlin, to develop real, effective partnerships in the world. Third point we are all interested in, and here I come to one of the strategic partners, which is really a partner and really strategic, but still not to just be given for granted and forget it, is the relation with the United States. I think the transatlantic partnership, relationship, is something we have to take care of in the next 25 years. History is not enough. We need to share our future. And even the strong alliance on a military side with NATO, given the fact that out of the 28 member states of the European Union, out of the 28 allies in NATO, 22 are the same countries, still we will have to develop a more political, a more mature, I would say, relationship. History has given us a lot, and the fall of the Berlin Wall is the perfect example of that. Being Italian, that's deep in my heart. Still, I think that now and for the generations to come, we will have to find the ways of being friends in a more open, constructive, and frank way. That we reciprocally need each other to develop the next step of our friendship, of our partnership. A mutual support, a cooperation, and a mutual respect. Fourth point, I believe we have an interest in working on all together, and none of our European countries alone can do it, is to contribute to shape an effective multilateralism. 25 years ago, these huge expectations that entire generations had about a new world order were there. And today, we are here, plenty of conflicts, some regional structures able to cope with them, some, even us, which in principle is the most functional one, having difficulties in dealing with the conflicts we have around us. That expectation of shaping a different way of promoting peace and democracy in the world is still up there. The UN system is, in many crises, vital, but still with a lot of limits. And we haven't rethought of our way of living together on this planet. We just missed an opportunity because we were always busy with other things. It was the Balkan War, 9/11 came, the old debate about the clash of civilization or the dialogue of civilization, and now here we are with one crisis coming up after the other. Maybe it's time that we take a break, breathe a little bit, and while we try to deal with all these crises that we have around us, also do some efforts of collective thinking. And here I think there's a lot of expertise that we could use in this foreign policy community to try and understand how we take advantage of the fact that the world is not divided in two since a long time now. That yes, we have major trends of threats, but still we haven't really developed, I wouldn't say a doctrine, but something like a strategy to deal with the word complexity, as Frank rightly put it. And this is the core of the EU experience. How do you deal with complexity? How do you unite differences and make the most out of them? And so I would say that maybe this is the most exciting and challenging challenge that we have as Europeans in front of us. How do we manage to contribute globally to a big effort to shape a functional multilateralism and its institutions, starting from the UN, but also the regional institutions, because we have seen also in these decades flourishing of regional organizations, sometimes even too much flourishing. Think of different continents having so many different regional fora, not necessarily communicating very well one with the other. So I think there is a potential for a European initiative and perspective there. Fifth point on which I think us Europeans have an interest in working together, and not only us, but also with others, but mainly us, is a comprehensive work for security. We tend to, especially us Europeans, I mean, the false debate about Venus and Mars, I think it's just a journalistic or a media approach, good for communication, but not really at roots. But what we tend to think when we say security as Europeans is military. And we all know very well, in the last 25 years as well, that yes, military is part of the security. And we, by the way, I will personally work very much, try to work as much as I can on the defense part of the European integration, because I think this is a tool that we have not used at the best so far, and that there is a lot of potential there for us to play our role in our region, and not only in our region, and in cooperation with NATO. One of the first meetings I had is with the NATO Secretary General, and I found it very good that we start to coordinate, obviously each of us with our differences, but especially in times of crisis, coordinating the narrative, the message, brings us better results. Sometimes it won't be possible, but in many cases it is, and we have to, I think, make good use of it. But there is a lot in terms of security, collective security, global security, regional security, that we can do apart from the military. And this is, again, purely European added value in a special way. I think of conflict prevention. We have a lot of instruments there, and it's much more not only effective, But economic-wise, interesting, because if you prevent conflicts, look at the conflict now. Most of them, we saw them coming. We saw them coming. We knew. Some of us better than others, some of us sooner than others, but there's no conflict, almost no conflict, that was completely out of the blue. Taking this luxury of looking ahead of 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, might give us the opportunity to use all our instruments in terms of institution building, promotion of human rights, democracy, access to resources, equal distribution of access to resources, being them natural or financial, that can stabilize parts of the world that is in our interest to stabilize before they blow up. And the same goes to crisis and post-crisis management, because if you see at the crisis of today, many of them are coming out of a, let's say, not perfect, I'm starting to be diplomatic, non-perfect post-crisis management. Think of Libya, think of Iraq. I hope it's not going to be the case for Afghanistan, and I think we should work on that. If we don't follow up, even successful military intervention, technically successful military intervention, can turn into political failures if we do not use all our power with different instruments to make sure that, that our security policy is not a comprehensive one. And then there are issues that normally, in this the Americans are better than us Europeans, normally we do not put in the security box. But still, Ukrainian crisis demonstrates it very well, are a lot linked to security. Think of energy, think of climate. Think of, again, poverty reduction, migration flows. There is not one single internal policy that doesn't also have an external impact. And there is no external foreign policy that doesn't have an internal impact in our national dimensions or in our European dimensions. And that's why I believe, and I've started to do that, in order to have a EU that can be a real, mature and effective regional and global player, we have first of all to start working together among us. The Commission, the European Commission that just started to work 1 week ago, has this structure of coordinating commissioners of different portfolios. We have started to meet already last week, and that happened in a format that included, for instance, climate change, the commissioners in charge of climate and energy, because we have the Lima conference coming up and then the Paris one next year, and that has to do a lot with national or European internal policies, very much, and commitments, but also all the foreign policy instruments, credibility and tools, and also policies that we can have, being it at the European level or at national level, 28, can contribute for us to be a good player in that field, and vice versa. If we fail there, we will have foreign policy consequences and also security consequences. So I think that the method, the way in which we can work together, and here I find it a little bit strange saying from in Brussels and in Berlin, or in Brussels and in London, in Brussels and in Cyprus, because to me, the European Union is not Brussels. To me, the European Union is also Berlin, but also Hamburg and Frankfurt and many other parts of Germany, and not only of Germany, of all the 28, hopefully, that are places I don't even know the names of. But that is Europe, it's not Brussels. Brussels is where we work, but Europe is all the 28 countries, from Finland to Portugal and Cyprus and Denmark. So I think we need to develop this teamwork you mentioned. You're a team player, and I'm sure Germany will be there. Not only the government, but also the foreign policy community. This is why I'm so happy of being here today and also yesterday, meeting with Parliament, meeting with different ministers, meeting with think tanks. We need to bring together the European foreign policy community and shape our common strategy, our common vision, and work on that. And this might also bring in Brussels some capacity of teamwork, which is very much needed. taking together the different institutions that sometimes have the tendency of saying us and you, and it's not only Brussels, it's even the EU itself, but it's still inside, sometimes me and you. I, with my so many different hats that I thought was 2, but it's many more, because, for instance, I'm the head of the European Defence Agency and many other things. I will take it as a personal challenge to come out of these 5 years without being completely crazy and split as a personality. But if the treaty indicates that there is a figure, a high representative, that takes together member states and Commission and the different European institutions for a common effort on foreign policy, that has a sense, that makes a sense. And the sense is that it's very much in the European Union core business, and it's very much in the lesson of the fall of the Berlin Wall, that unity and managing complexity is our bigger resource, our bigger opportunity. And it's not easy, but nothing about us, Europeans, is easy, never, never. But we are the ones that have better tools, better conditions, better historical background and geographical position to take together differences, make of difference a strength, and manage the complexity without that black and white attitude that Frank was referring to. We need this understanding and this managing of complexity in this world much more than before, and where actually it was before the fall of the Berlin Wall, very much black and white. This is the legacy of the fall of the Berlin Wall. We have to deal with complexity altogether. And I think that if in, I wouldn't say 25 years, but even 5 years, we manage to feel a community, that we are part of a community on foreign policy as Europeans, and we manage to work as a team on common and shared interests, I think we will have contributed not only to our own citizens' security and interests, economic interests as well, but also to the ones of our region and of the world. I thank you very much, and I count very much on our common work, common teamwork. Thank you very much.